Welcome back to the KRNA Morning Show. James Larson, Mike Ferris, and I am so pleased to announce that we have got a very special guest. We've been talking about it all week long. The big show tonight in the Quad Cities Taxslayer Center. On the phone is the one and only Alice Cooper. Alice, good morning. How the hell are you?
I am great. I had 2 days off. We had a run of 8 shows in 10 days, so we needed 2 days off, and we're ready to go. Everybody's recharged.
Now, you told me just before we started this interview, this is the best band you've ever played with. So what can the fans expect if they've got a ticket to tonight's show?
First of all, it's the full-out Alice Cooper show. You know, I mean, it's everything. The guillotine, the insane nurse, things are coming out of my toy box that I don't have any explained. It's a purely theatrical show, but the band itself, I've got... Glenn Sobel, my drummer, was just voted best drummer in rock and roll.
Wow.
My guitar player, Hurricane Nita Strauss, was voted best female guitar player in rock and roll. And, I mean, so I've got a band that just kills the audience every night musically. And it's hard rock. It's going to be hard rock all the way. But you've got Alice there with all the theatrics then on top of it. So it's an amazing show.
Your band is absolutely spectacular. I saw you a few years ago at the Beloit Riverfest in front of probably 15,000 people, and they were just tight and just rocking it. And you command that stage just like you did as a young guy back in the 70s with all the props, like you said, the guillotine and all that stuff. Alice, it was one of the best shows I've ever seen. And, you know, it was a very big surprise for us. The radio station I was at invited you, and you showed up at our golf tournament the next day. We had a great time out on the greens and the fairways up in Madison, Wisconsin.
Well, you know, generally when you're on the road, a golf tournament is for some charity, and I play a lot of those. You know, I really believe in if you can use your name, you know, to raise money for charities. Well, you should do that. And I do play golf 6 days a week, so you don't have to twist my arm much to get me to a golf tournament.
That leads me to my next question. What is your handicap these days? I heard you were almost a scratch golfer. Is that true?
I was a scratch about 6-7 years ago.
No
now
kidding.
I play 3. I'm a 3 right now.
You're a 3. That is fantastic.
But I mean, it was so funny because I turned 70 about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And happy birthday.
And at my birthday party, I said, okay, I am going to tell you right now that at some point this year, I will shoot my age.
Wow.
The very next day, I shot 69.
Oh, yeah. That is so awesome, man. That is so cool. We're on the phone with Alice Cooper. He's playing the Quad Cities tonight over there at the Taxslayer Center. Hey, Alice, what is it like for you to come to the Midwest, the heartland? Is it different than, say, being on either side of the coast? What do you look forward to most? And I know the cold weather isn't something you look forward to, but what do you look forward to the most being here in the heartland?
Well, first of all, I'm from Detroit. I'm from Michigan. So I am a Midwest kid.
Sure.
The Midwest is always the heart of hard rock. You know, if you go to New York, you know, they get every kind of music in New York and in L.A. and, you know, in San Francisco and places like that. You get to the Midwest, especially like in Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, and it's an audience that is born into hard rock. They want to hear a loud band, guitars, bass, drum, and relentless. To me, that's always been the heart of rock and roll is in the Midwest. So when people say, where's your favorite audience? I always go, the Midwest. That's the meat and potatoes of rock and roll right there.
Yeah, and speaking of meat and potatoes, Quad Cities tonight, and then you'll be heading, I believe, to Madison, Wisconsin.
Tomorrow,
to play the theater. We've got friends over there.
In fact, my son is one of the production managers at that club, the Orpheum, and that's a great.
Oh, really?
Yes, and you know what? That's a great.
Well, you know, we do a different thing every time. Sometimes we'll take this tour out and we'll just do nothing but arenas.
Mm-hmm.
Other times we'll go on a tour and say we're going to do theaters, and we're old theaters, like the really old 1920s.
Exactly.
Theaters.
That's what this is.
And
yeah, the Orpheum.
The audience gets such a great view of the show in a theater. I would much rather play a theater than I would a gigantic stadium.
Right.
Because when it gets diluted in a big stadium. If you're in a theater, you're seeing a theater piece in a theater.
There's a very classic Gothic feel to your show, and that is a beautiful, perfect place to see it. You're a great storyteller, Alice, and your songs have always done that. They've told stories and everything, and your radio show has done that too. You've been on the radio now for years doing a night show, and you tell such great stories on the radio. You once told a story to us about Groucho Marx was your next-door neighbor and gave you a big circular bed. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was over at his house. If you had dinner at Groucho's house, you had to perform after dinner.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So he had a piano player. He had, he would just get a piano player to come over and sit there. If you were a singer, you had to dance.
Oh,
if you
wow.
were a dancer, you had to sing.
That's awesome.
You had to do, in other words, you weren't allowed to do what you normally do. You had to step outside your comfort zone. And that made everybody laugh because they realized that's not what you did, you know.
Oh, that's awesome.
There one afternoon, and he says, Alice, I want to show you something. And we go in the other room. There's this gigantic round bed, and it's in his room. And he says, I've had this since the 40s, you know. And he says, I never had any luck with it. You want it?
Wow.
I said, yeah, I'll take it. So I put it in my house in Laurel Canyon. And then it just so happened that on the next tour, we were in England, and McCartney invited us over to his house in Scotland.
No way.
So my wife went over there, and Paul McCartney had just built a house that had this big circular room that was going to be his meditation room. And I said, Paul, I'm going to send you a house gift, okay?
Oh, wow.
So we sent him the bed. And on the note, it said, Dear Paul, it said, here is a piece of history. Neither one of us had any luck on it. Alice and Groucho.
Wow.
He put it in the room. And like 10 years later, I saw him, and he says, well, he said, that room didn't become a meditation room.
It became a bedroom, yeah.
But that changed everything in that room.
Oh, wow. That
went
is...
from being one thing to another. He said, my kids would use it as a trampoline. He said, and, you know, so he still has the bed.
Oh, wow. What a great story. We're on the line with Alice Cooper. Alice, a couple more questions, and we'll get you out of here. My question right now is, where are you at right now? Are you in the Quad Cities? Are you on a tour bus? Are you in a hotel? And are you drinking coffee?
I am in Chicago right now, and we leave for Moline at noon, and we're going to drive in because we spent 2 days here.
Okay.
And we'll be in this afternoon.
Okay.
And yeah.
And what do you do with your time when you're not golfing in warm weather areas? When you've got a day off or a few hours, what do you do when you're in the cities? Do you sit around and just watch TV? What goes on in Alice Cooper's life on a day off?
I hardly ever sit in a hotel room. I avoid hotel rooms. I go out, I walk. My wife is in the show. My wife, Cheryl,
Sure.
She plays the nurse. She plays the rag doll ballerina. She does all the high vocals, everything. She's like all purpose.
Very cool.
And so we get into a town, we immediately go out. We either go shopping or we go have lunch, or on days off is when we catch up on the movies.
Okay.
So last night we went to see a movie called Gringo, which is a very funny movie, you know. And we just kind of figure out what movies we're going to go see. Sometimes we'll do a 2-movie night.
Nice.
And that's great for me because I love movies, so go and see all the movies that I've been missing, you know.
Can Alice Cooper walk into a theater and not get recognized? Does that ever happen where you don't get recognized?
It's generally not.
I didn't think so.
But I've got my hair back, and I've got a hat on, and I've got sunglasses, and, you know, we make sure we come in just right when the movie's going to start. And by the end of the movie, so when I'm leaving is when I get, we're not worthy.
Oh, yeah. We're not going to go there. I promise we're not going to ask about Milwaukee. But Mike has one last question, and then we'll wrap up the interview.
Alice, there was a portrayal of you in the Showtime series Vinyl about your days in the early 70s and things like that. And it was absolutely brilliant, we thought. Did you feel that it was a fair and accurate depiction of you?
The kid that played me happened to live down the street from my daughter, who's also an actress.
Oh, my gosh.
So when he found out, he said, okay, give me some insight on Alice in this era. period.
Right.
And she said, okay, the one thing is he never swore. So there was even, he says, and when he drank, which was most of the time, he never stumbled, he never slurred a word, he was never drunk. He was always just on some sort of golden buzz.
Right.
The one thing where they got wrong was when I'm talking to the guy from the record company who's trying to get me off of my one record and into the other. I never once in my life ever did business. Chef Gordon, my manager,
Of course.
I've been with him 48 years. He did all the business. If somebody came to me and said, we want to talk to you about that, I'd just start laughing.
Right.
My deal is that I never, ever have to talk business. So
Yeah.
it was kind of funny that they were trying to influence me to change record companies. And I'm actually talking to them in the show. I said, no, guys, that's the one thing you got wrong is the fact that I never once talked business with anybody.
So they took a little theatrical license with that, but then the scene where you have the record company guy in the guillotine is a
Yeah,
classic.
that is pretty good.
We did that.
Oh, you did? Okay, gotcha.
Okay, that was I mean, it was always one of those things where, they realized something like that was going to happen. I thought the guy that was the best guy in the whole show was Andrew Dice Clay.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Like he owned all the radio stations. He was brilliant in that show.
I forgot about that. I fell in love with the show, and it was short-lived, unfortunately. It was good stuff. All right, I could sit and talk to you all day, Alice, but I told Beth, who lined up this interview, I wouldn't do that, and thank you for taking time out. And speaking of your staff, I want to give props to Nick, who has worked hard with us here over at Pinnacle, and Beth over at their agency that she works at. Thank you for taking time out. The show is tonight. Their tickets are still available. Taxslayer Center over there in Moline. 7:30 is the opener. Brandon Gibbs will open, along with Alice Cooper. And Alice, I'll let you close this out. Why should people buy a ticket and come see the godfather of shock rock tonight in the Quad Cities?
If you want to miss the best show of the year, I mean, come on. Everybody that's ever seen this show walks away saying, I've never seen anything like that. It's so different than anything else. I mean, we bring you an extra Halloween in the middle of the year.
You're right about that, Alice. And Alice, I'm just going to remind everybody before we play Schools Out right now, let's just remind everybody, it's a Tuesday night. You got nothing to do anyway. Buy a ticket and come see Alice Cooper. Thanks for joining us on the KRNA Morning Show, my friend.
Thank you, Ed.